The shirt shit. This is so stupid.
What do you mean?
We went look at the fucking same guy.
That's what we do on these mock drafts. We provide dress codes. Sometimes the guests, sometimes they abide by it. You're the first one out of the last two that actually went with it.
Right,
White hat, green shirt. We're both married to the same woman.
Exactly.
We both have our fitness band on right now. Who wore it better? We need to know. All right. What's cracking? Is Monday for you guys. It's Thursday night for us. We even got the fucking trap flexes. Let's go. There's a lot of energy going on right now. We're filming this on Thursday night. It's about 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. Y'all are going to see it on Monday because we do one of these mock drafts every single Monday. And here today, I am joined with Mr. Nate Liss. He is one of my favorite individuals within the fantasy dynasty space, one of my least favorite individuals in general. Once we get outside of the dynasty fantasy space, he knows that already, but we keep it real here. So we're going to do a 4-round rookie mock draft. Now we're doing a 1 quarterback draft because I get yelled at a lot in the comments that people need to see these ones, and I think my quota is like doing like 1 per offseason where it's a 1 quarterback mock draft. And I know if I don't force myself into doing it, then I'll never do it. And I was like, Nate, you know what? I'm just going to force it upon you. You don't have a choice right now. This is my dojo. We look exactly the same, maybe a little less hair coming through the front of the hat. Nate Liss, wonderful content going up on his YouTube channel. His socials will be linked down below. If you're looking for more dynasty content in your life, really high quality, high production, high research value type content, look no further than an outraged Jew. Nate, what's going on, baby?
Thanks, man. It's got to be awkward saying that out loud. I appreciate you bringing me on. I appreciate you going pre-show and changing the shirt that you had to the shirt that I'm wearing so we can look the same.
Don't do it. I pulled up looking like a snack.
You did. That's fair. No, man, I appreciate it. Yes, YouTube, man, I try to make a lot of content that I put probably too much time into at times. I mean, see a lot of guys out there that are ripping a ton of content, and sometimes my research becomes overwhelming. But for those of you that go check it out, I think you'll see the details in the effort, man. I look forward to it. Truth be told, Nick offered a superflex or a 1QB option. I said a flip of the coin. He said, well, now you don't get to choose. I'm choosing. And then he selected
flip the coin. I said, I made my own coin, and both of them say heads. Right. You don't have a fucking choice on this. All right.
That's right.
Yeah. All right. Let's just hang out for a little while. And you have a conspiracy theory that I told you to wait until we were on the camera for. Are we going to wait? Is this like football related that we should wait till the guy is picked and then we talk about it?
I think it's football related. And I think it's best to bring up when Kayshawn comes up because he will inevitably come up at some time. So if you want to do the show pause at that point, we can do it. But yes, it is a football related semi-conspiracy, semi-debunk.
I think I might know what you're referring to. Maybe not. I did see like a random Twitter comment from someone who's very high up in the NFL world about some of the maybe issues he's been dealing or was dealing with in his life that could have led to. No, I'm not even going
unrelated, bro. No, this is I'm as much of a nerd as they get when it comes to data. And this is a minor clerical error in the data that has caused people to necessarily prop up a lot of players, probably more so than they deserve to be.
So Kayshawn Boutte, he was like 24 when he enrolled at LSU, is what you're about to tell me.
Right. We're pulling birth certificates on this episode.
I don't put nothing past you, Nate. You know what? You're the king of the breakout age over here. I will jump in because you've built apps, you've gone through a lot of numbers, you're building something right now on dynastyrankings.com. You try to get as predictive as possible when we talk about prospects. Just a very baseline question. Is there anything glaring to you in your years and years of research with this data that stands out as far more predictive over other people? It could be a statistic. It could be something with size. It could be with draft capital. It could be, what their name of their mother. It doesn't really matter. It could be what color shirt they wore on a live stream with me. Anything that stands out that makes one player more likely to break out at the next level than other players.
Believe it or not, since we're doing a show about prospects, believe it or not, the most obvious one of all of them. Take a guess what the most obvious translation from college to the pros, and this is with almost every position, the highest correlator across all of them to future fantasy points. What is it?
I would have to say bench press reps, probably, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That's dead
shrug.
on.
However,
yeah, dude, how you
shrug?
You shrug a lot.
It's got to be draft capital, right?
No, it's fantasy points per game.
Fantasy
points per
level.
game at the college level is the highest single correlator to fantasy points per game at the NFL level of any of them. So it's intuitive, but yeah, I mean, draft capital is clearly the greatest predictor for future opportunity, right? Like, because I mean, a lot of guys get first round capital and then don't fire. Then we get guys that get no draft capital whatsoever and they do fire.
Sure.
But yes, so no, fantasy points per game. Like if you were going to lean into a single metric, that would be it at the collegiate level. I mean, it seems silly, but it's an absolute fact.
Okay, so fantasy points per game at the college level. Now that's across all positions.
That's basically across all positions. Yeah, even at the quarterback position, you're seeing a.
I'm more interested in like, what about like tight end? Tight end, is it as strong there? Because I feel like a lot of the dudes who break out at tight end at the NFL level are, you know, they're athletic. I don't think like being athletic is the way to be. Most of the best ones are athletic, but just being athletic does not make you one of the best ones. It feels like a lot of the dudes who are up there don't really have a ton of like compiled up statistics at the college level. Is it so tight end still falls into that category?
No, so tight end's actually a different one overall, which is funny. So at fantasy points per game is still a really high ranking metric in terms of correlation. But for the tight end position overall, it's simply just receiving yards and market share of receiving yards are seriously like the two biggest amongst that group. And then when we look at athleticism for them, surprisingly, broad jump is a really high correlator to future fantasy production as well as speed scores. So those are probably the two that you would look at amongst the combine performance.
Okay. That's interesting. I need to, who amongst the tight ends this year? I mean, their class they ripped at the combine this year. But they have a lot of guys again that like didn't do a ton in college. So I guess I question like they're, you know, if they're not producing, but they're like Zach Kuntz, for instance, right? He has the 3 years at Penn State where he doesn't do. I actually heard a conspiracy theory about Zach Kuntz that I'm going to fucking drop right now for you. This feels like it's fake news, but I heard it on like a semi-reliable podcast.
I don't even care if it's fake. Lie to me. I don't care.
All right. I'm going to straight up lie to you because I don't actually believe it. So apparently Penn State in 2018 offered scholarships to 3 tight ends, and whoever the first 2 were to accept the scholarships were going to be the ones that enrolled at Penn State as their tight ends on scholarship. They gave a scholarship to Pat Freiermuth, they gave one to Zach Kuntz, and they gave one to Kyle Pitts. And apparently Pat Freiermuth and Zach Kuntz were the first 2 to, you know, accept it. And Kyle Pitts, you know, the rest is obviously history. But weird how that works. Weird how a lie is that crazy, you know? Weird how I'm just making things up and I can make it as crazy as I want to. But
is that a lie?
I can't confirm nor deny if it's a lie or who I heard it from. I didn't make it up from my brain. My brain is very big. It's vast. It has a lot of knowledge. It has a lot of lies and rumors circulating within it. That one did not come from here, though.
Makes sense. No, that's interesting. Yeah, I think that the tight end position as a whole, like, and we're going to get into it in this. I'm not a huge proponent of the tight ends. I mean, most tight ends that have hit at the NFL level are almost not predictable. Like you could have thrown a dart and hit the guy that was going to break out. And many of the guys that we've expected to break out don't. The duration of time it takes to break out takes forever. But at tight end, yeah, I think we're always throwing darts at the most athletic players just year over year. And even in this class with a handful of these guys, as you just mentioned, one right there, like they're not players that I'm reaching for, because I feel like tight end as a whole is often devalued unless you're in tight end premium, which I still don't know the settings of this. Is this 1QB tight end premium? What are we doing here?
I'll let you know like midway through the 3rd round.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, that's good. That's
good.
Well, I won't
have one quarterback. One quarterback. We'll do regular tight end scoring, half PPR. Everything is half. It's all half PPR.
Wow, fuck! I don't even know how I'm gonna have to rework my brain to do half PPR. Do you play in half PPR leagues?
I literally only play in half PPR leagues.
That's so weird to me. That's so different. I just it's as weird as us wearing the same outfit right now.
We're the same. Just our brains need to work on the same level right now, Nate.
I'm mind melting right now. Yeah. So
all right, never mind. We're switching 3 quarterback league. 3. They call it a super duper flex.
Super duper flex.
All right, no, fuck it. Let's. You ready to draft?
Fuck, man. I mean, yeah, whatever you want to do. I got my sleeper pulled up right here. Yeah, I think I'm ready. I selected the 103 for no real reason. I was gonna sandwich myself between you and Cody, and then I thought, nah, fuck it. I don't want to do that.
All right. Let's kick it off then. As you see, we have 12 beautiful members in here. We've got some notable names outside of myself and Nate. I believe Cody Karp is always in here. His kid fucking mocks more than anyone I've ever seen before. We got a couple other player profiler people that reached out via the DMs.
Nice.
Maddie, I believe. And nice. Yeah, whatever. 1 quarterback, half PPR. I'm in the 5 spot. Nate is in the 3 spot. And we are ready to rip.
Cool. Can't even warm
it on the clock.
60 seconds, isn't it? It is. Perfect.
You think I was about to sit here for fucking 2 minutes, 48 picks?
I like a 28-minute clock. Really let it marinate.
You want to do an overnight draft?
Yeah, let's do a slow draft via email. We'll all just send it back and forth. No, man, these mocks have been, obviously a lot of people are looking to consume mocks right now. I haven't made any myself, so it's good to get on here and see where we're all at. So Bijan Robinson.
I'm excited for the first person to there's going to be a quarterback picked within the first 5 picks. I feel like.
Right back on me. What's up with my shit? Okay, here we go. So I'm up.
You good? Yeah, you're up. So we got Bijan, we got Jackson.
I mean, I'm gonna go Jahmyr Gibbs here. Especially in 1QB. I mean, see, this is what's interesting. I was gonna kind of predict how this draft was gonna play out. I'm pretty sure Anthony Richardson's going to be the first QB to go, and I'm expecting to see Richardson go probably in the next. I mean, what?
You think I won't take him right now? I would take him. If you say 6 or later, I would take him just to spite you.
I wouldn't blame you.
Hold up. Let's talk about this real quick. As I said, these peasants are going to have to wait. So you go Jahmyr Gibbs at 3.
Yes.
You're a fan of Gibbs, clearly, if you're taking him over what I think is kind of like a tier of the top wide receivers in Jackson Smith-Njigba, Jordan Addison, Quentin Johnston, however you want to order them. No concern of him being under 200 pounds.
No, I don't think so, because with Jahmyr Gibbs, I'm selecting Gibbs under the understanding that whatever team drafts him understands the way that the NFL works today, and he's going to be used more as a hybrid pass catcher, something that he truly excelled at the collegiate level. One of the concerns with Gibbs, of course, is that just sort of the low rushing volume. Only 33% of the team rush attempts went to Gibbs. That's much lower than what we've seen out of some of the other top backs in this class. But, somebody's picked. Did you already pick? What happened? You unpause us? You took Quentin Johnston.
You're good. You're good. You're good.
So, no, I took him here because one of my other concerns right now, JSN is clearly the guy I want. If he was there, I would have taken him over Gibbs. But with the clock on running backs, essentially by the time you hit the end of that deal, if you're not getting that second contract, you look at a lot of these guys, man, they lose value in Dynasty. A lot of times they're not getting extensive second contracts that are very big. A lot of these guys concession for contracts. Many of the guys that got contracts this year may get.
It's brutal.
And who knows where they land. Look at how many running backs are coming in. You think Miles Sanders is safe? You think any of these guys are still safe? I mean, no chance.
Even Miles Sanders, you see the contract come in, it was 4 years, $24 million. You're like, wow, Sanders got a massive deal. You're like, it's not really that fucking big. If you look at any other top tier running back that got a deal over the last 3 years, they all got heavy bags. And I think all the fucking GMs and execs are like, we can't give out those types of contracts. They go sour. They go fucking quick. They go bad like a fucking avocado out here. And we're like, we can't keep giving these contracts out here. Miles Sanders, the $25 million over 4 years, $6 million a year is nothing. That's like punter money. That's kicker money right there, man. So it's ugly. That's what makes me nervous about. I know Gibbs is young, wildly explosive. I get a little bit nervous about him being undersized. I get it though, because he'll probably get, you could take the sample size of just running backs who are under 200 pounds and be like, they usually don't hit. But if you dwindle that down to running backs under 200 pounds drafted in the first 2 rounds, which you probably will be, then the discussion gets a little bit different. Then the numbers start to go a little bit more towards in his direction, which I can get the case for. We'll have to see where he ends up landing. I want Quentin Johnston. Sorry, no, go ahead.
No, go ahead. No, I was going to say, I mean, draft capital is clearly everything, but Jahmyr Gibbs has all the requisite. If he was 15 pounds heavier, it would be unquestioned, be right there neck and neck. But the fact that he is lighter, and it is a concern at the NFL level, but I think more so if the expectation for Gibbs is that he's going to be some between the tackles grinder, and he's going to carry some massive amount of workload in the rushing game, which we're hearing guys like Austin Eckler say they don't want. Guys like, Josh Jacobs have, said that they want to tune it back a little bit. I mean, even these runners just don't want that level of workload because they know it diminishes what they have in terms of the long term. All right, back on the clock. Let's see who's taken.
Yeah, for me, I do have Gibbs slightly behind that first tier of wide receivers. Draft capital might shake things up. I went with Quentin Johnston because I do feel like he is the last guy in that tier of top tier wide receivers. Had I chosen 6, I think gets a little bit more difficult for me. But Johnston feels like a dude who's going to get crazy high. I think he's an underrated player in terms of the betting market to be the first wide receiver off the board. If Houston takes him at 12, with their second pick, would not be surprised whatsoever. If he goes top 15, would not be surprised whatsoever. And at that point, I'm probably not taking a round 2 running back, a round 3 running back, even in a great landing spot over a dude like Quentin Johnson, who I feel like has all the tools, has all the athleticism to start putting it together. After Quentin Johnson at 105, we've got Charbonnet, Zay Flowers, Michael Mayer, Jalen Hyatt, Kendra Miller, CJ Stroud, Sean Tucker, Anthony Richardson, Tajay Spears, Josh Downs, Devon A. Chain, and I'm up at 205, and I have a good idea.
Do you have a good idea?
Talk about some of these picks. Well, if you look at Sleeper's board right now, they suggest, the next ADP player, the next ranked player. If you could see who's atop that board, Kayshon Boutte. And I'm thinking to myself, do I want some booty on my team? I'm not a titty guy. I like the booty. I want to add him to the squad, but I know you are out here spitting conspiracy theories to me about him. So I need to know what I'm about to draft. I need to go into the mind of a GM right now, and I need to do the digging. Oh my God, this one guy from YouTube knows something about Kayshon Boutte. Give it to me. What do we got?
All right. So here's the deal, man. So there's a really interesting thing that's going on with breakout age, especially amongst this group right here. You often hear breakout age is cited when we talk about the top prospects in, college sports, right? When we look at running backs, when we look at wide receivers, breakout age is literally everything. But did you know that this year, and this is some data that was put together by somebody else, but it's not been talked about, and I've been looking into it a lot, that this year is the highest year of all time of age 18 breakouts. The average prior to this season was about a 9% average of players entering the draft that were age 18. This year, it's 23.5%.
Whoa.
Why do you think that is?
Did it have to do with the COVID year?
It did. It had to do with the COVID year. The COVID year.
Oh, we're getting into COVID conspiracies. Dude, we're getting into COVID conspiracies on the channel.
Twisted everything. We've got guys. Channel. Yes. No, you are now. We've got guys that are being gifted age 18 breakout ages for having 3 games played. We had teams that didn't play. We had teams that played 5 games. We had teams that played 9 games. We had guys that couldn't practice on the same field without masks. They had to be separated in rooms. The conditioning was worse. And then here's the other thing that supports it.
Very interesting.
If you go back to the year prior to this, it was a 14% age 18 breakout, was still a 5% higher than the average. So over the last 2 years, so I look at a guy like Kayshon, I look at what he did as a freshman, I look at the year that everybody keeps going back to, and I go, well, that was the year that everything was upside down. That was the year that everything was backwards. Then we look at all the production since then. We look at all the off-field issues. He's just not necessarily a guy that I'm interested in, despite the fact that the league and mock drafts are still showing him with day 2 capital. I'm just not that interested in Kayshon Boutte when I look back, and I especially look at this data, and I'm going to be a lot more critical about breakout age probably for the next year or 2 beyond this.
Yeah, that's a super fair point that I didn't even really think about. And it's tough because he played 10 games that year, but it's still a pretty limited sample size, and he didn't break out in a crazy way. And then the next year, most of his production came via receiving touchdowns. And this is something that I've noticed over the years that when there's a player who breaks out at a very young age, the first thing I do is check what percentage of that production came from receiving touchdowns versus actual receptions and receiving yards. Because when the majority of that stuff comes from touchdowns, we know it's a fluky stat, and that's something that you can't really follow up with. That's something that, if that's where the majority came from, like a Terrace Marshall, his old teammate, that tends to be something that steers you the wrong way for the most part. So, Kayshon Boutte, we're going to move off of him at this point. But I do actually want to cover, we saw 2 quarterbacks go off the board. Yeah. And this is the reason why I wanted to do a 1 quarterback draft, because I wasn't sure when these guys would start ripping off in 1QB leagues. And we've seen this shift in regular redraft leagues where now everybody's starting to value the high-end quarterbacks early enough. I think in redraft leagues this year, just straight up season-long leagues, I think we're going to see 5 quarterbacks picked in the top 30 picks. I think we're going to see Mahomes, Allen, Hurts, Burrow. I'm probably missing someone else, but maybe Lamar Jackson, someone else. There's going to be somebody, a group of 4 or 5 dudes that go wildly high in 1 quarterback redraft leagues. Now, I think people are going to start, thinking that same way when they're looking at 1 quarterback rookie drafts. And we have CJ Stroud at 111, Anthony Richardson at 2-1. I have been pretty vocal that in superflex drafts, Richardson is the 3 for me. I just don't think he is a thrower. He is not a good passer, right? He is an athlete that throws the ball. Not a great passer. Superflex, I want to be less risk averse in that sense. 1 quarterback leagues, these are the guys that you want, right? The reason that you draft a quarterback that high in a 1 quarterback league is because you're just getting upside and you could replace a dude if he's not playing well. So I would actually throw Richardson probably above CJ Stroud. What kind of upside does he have? I don't care about that in Superflex. Give me 18 points a game and I'm feeling good. In 1 quarterback league, you're leaving a lot of meat on the fucking bone if you have a 17, 18 point per game guy while everybody else is just shooting for upside strictly. So 111 for CJ Stroud feels kind of crazy. I guess, depending on how you feel about the players that go after him, I don't know. How you feeling about like how early Stroud went and then Richardson at the 2-1? You were saying like you wouldn't yell at people if they were going 1-6, 1-7, 1-8 with Anthony Richardson, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's, again, I think, did we say this was tight end premium, by the way? Can I clarify this real quick?
All half PPR.
Okay, so Mayer went way too high, by the way. So with that being said, Anthony Richardson is a guy that, like, with what his legitimate upside is, we look at, the best rushing profile quarterbacks here of the last, 5-8 years. His upside is greater than any other quarterback in this draft. Like, if we're looking ceiling versus ceiling, which in 1QB we are, I would assume anybody in a rookie draft playing 1QB, you obviously already have quarterbacks. Whether you're going with low end guys, you're going with mid guys. To me, I would have appropriated Anthony Richardson over Stroud, because to me, Stroud, though he may be a good quarterback at the NFL level, the upside is just not the equivalent of what we're going to get from Richardson. So I agree, and I wouldn't have been mad. I would be open to take him over Zay Flowers. I would have been open to take him over Mayer. My line probably would have been right after Charbonnet. That's probably about where I would have been on board, because again, you can't replace running back production as easily in one QB. You can replace QBs all day, but the running back is always going to have a scarcity. So for me, based on the draft that I'm seeing, 1-7 would have probably been my line. Where I would have been open to him. Obviously, he didn't make it back to me at 2-3, or I would have taken him.
I think that makes sense to me. I don't think I personally do it. It makes sense to me though, based on the fact that like half of the dudes on the board right now are absolute black box prospects. Like we have no idea half of them didn't do the combine. We have no idea. Like Sean Tucker, if he goes to the combine, runs a 4.33, we're expecting 3rd round capital and we feel pretty good about him. Doesn't go to the combine, holding his own fucking fake pro day, that he posts on Twitter. And now it's like 5th or 6th round capital. Like all of these guys have something weird about their prospect profiles that we are not going to be able to clear up until the draft actually happens. So it's like Anthony Richardson feels, at least I don't feel grimy taking him in a 1 quarterback league that early, where I feel there's a little bit of grime left on my body anywhere else I go.
I mean, well, yeah, you're going to be scrubbing barnacles off of yourself if you draft half of these guys. I mean, the reality of the situation is I can't remember a draft class that was more littered with undersized wide receivers and undersized running backs that, like you said, didn't test. When we go look at I got to go back and look at this if I'm right about this. I believe the agility drills at the running back position, was it only Evan Hull and someone else?
Yeah, they never do it. They didn't do it at all last year either. And they were like, oh, it's because they had the drills at like 8 p.m. at night after the whatever. And then they just didn't do them again this year.
Yeah. So you've got a lot of like question marks all over the place. But the reality of the situation is that's just sort of adding context to what it is that we should already know about players. I mean, if you were playing in the SEC, like Bijan Robinson, I'm not sure he had to test for us to go, man, this guy looks on paper like the most dominant runner in the class. And on tape, he looks a speed faster than people and he looks stronger. And some of these things to me are intuitive. Some of them do need a little more clarity, like Kayshawn. I mean, Kayshawn fell off the face of a fucking cliff. And for whatever reason, people are hanging on to him because of that age 18 breakout, which, by the way, is totally falsified. They're hanging on to that for dear life. But there's like, what else is in the profile? Like, why? So if you get 2nd round draft capital, and dude, I've seen guys go in the 1st round and fail, right? We've seen John Ross was a top 10 pick. He flopped miserably. So
yeah, it was tough.
It's draft capital. Draft capital is a signal of how much a team likes you as a prospect and how much they're willing to invest in you an opportunity. It's not a guarantee of success. Like that needs to continue to be repeated. It's not a guarantee of success. And I think we know enough about a lot of these players, as you mentioned, to have plenty of concerns. So with that being said, Anthony Richardson in this format to me is a guy that I'm totally open to, because even if he flops, fuck it. It's 1 QB. I can survive it, because I really don't believe that if we go beyond the 1-7 here, I mean, realistically, like how many of these guys do you think are going to end up being elite assets in the league?
Dude, I legitimately think you're on the clock, by the way. You got 40 seconds.
Fuck this clock.
I legitimately think that this class as a whole is terrible. And I think I like people in fantasy like never want to say that about anything, about any player, about any class. This class feels disgusting. Like, I just don't think we're going to get a lot of good fantasy players out of this. And it's like, sure, we'll get a lot of good players as deep. It's like, fam, I don't want to use my 111 on a guy who's going to be like the RB22 or the RB27. You know what I mean? Like, I want good fucking players, and it feels like this class runs out of good players very quickly. Was that an auto pick?
No, that was not an auto pick. That was a human. That was a human selection.
That's fine. I'm fine with the pick. You just made a reaction as if like
no,
I told you were on the clock, and then you said fuck the clock, and then auto pick.
That was my face. I was like, I can't believe we're wearing the same outfit. That's what went through my head. I was like, how the fuck did we do this? No, I actually don't mind a Banacanda there, but no, I think you're right. I think the ultimate concern here is that the bust potential right now. And I don't want to fucking throw up the red alert in the sky, but like, I feel like the bust potential is just really high right now. And we've convinced ourselves through the duration of multiple really great draft classes that we can see through the eye of the storm that like, hey, no big deal. Like I trust, analyst X, I trust whatever. And I'm very much like a truth teller in the sense that like, I'm not going to blow smoke up your ass. Like I don't want to pretend like guys are good when they're not. And here's the thing. When in the history of us doing dynasty and fantasy football, have we gotten behind a guy that's 175 pounds at a wide receiver? We used to shame the shit out of that.
We're doing it for like 5-stepper dudes this year. It's Josh Downs, it's Tank Dell, it's fucking Marvin Mims. It's like the list never ends, and it's Jaden Reed. It's a lot of guys that I like too, admittedly, but it's the fact that we're lacking so much high-end talent that we're needing to push them up a tier, where if they were in any other year, we would be like, I love these guys as like late 4th round rookie picks. And now it's like, I might have to use my fucking 211, 3-1 on a dude whose profile screams 4-1, 4-4, 4-6 like that. So it's like kind of gross. I do want to circle back to the tight ends though. I took Dalton Kincaid at 2.5. Do any of the numbers or any of the stuff that you looked at so far this year, like pinpoint any players in particular that you like at the tight end position? Would you be going anywhere near early to mid-second round or even higher to look at Mayer, Kincaid, Darnell Washington, Sam Laporta, any of those guys?
I don't think so. The thing for me, even with first-round draft capital, I mean, just go back in time, Noah Fant, who was it, David Njoku, O.J. Howard. Like, it's not necessarily, again, a guarantee, and it's even more so difficult at the tight end position. It's really a dart throw. The thing for me, again, we talked about it, receiving yards, market share of receiving yards, two most high correlating factors, because, again, guys like Kittle have risen to absolute prominence. Rob Gronkowski was kind of an obvious one for draft capital on the surface, but like the big thing for me here, I'm going to throw this out to you. This is one of my biggest concerns with the tight end position this year. We saw this happen back in the day with Antonio Gates. We've seen it since then with Rob Gronkowski, and I'm hearing it now with Travis Kelce. Everybody thinks that whatever tight end goes there is going to be the guy who is the predecessor of X tight end. When we ignore the fact that those guys were absolutely elite and the history of the tight end position is so narrow and so difficult and takes so many years, we've got to quit convincing ourselves that tight ends, this savior tight end is the next man up. It's never been that. I mean, where was the next Rob Gronkowski in New England?
Every player that ever went there was apparently going to be the next. Yeah. I definitely do not buy into the mantra. Like, there's no system tight ends. I don't think there ever has been. I think just the best players at the tight end position are the ones that end up being really good for fantasy. So it's like, there's not a next Gronk. There's not a next Kelsey. There's not a whatever. There's just the first of this guy on this team. It's just the team happens to end up drafting a really good player, ends up breaking out, and then everyone wants someone to be the next one. That being said, if Dalton Kincaid goes to fucking Kansas City, my traps are going to tear from the amount of flexing I do that night.
Oh shit!
You got 10 seconds. You're on the clock.
I have 10 seconds. Hold on. Can we pause?
You've been on the clock. I'll pause. Yeah.
I didn't. Nobody told me I was on the clock.
Have you ever thought about looking at the fucking draft board while you're drafting?
I didn't even know there was a board. I've just been.
Are you not in Sleeper? What are you doing?
What do you mean?
How are you drafting if you're not looking at the board?
I paid somebody to remotely draft just so we could have casual conversation.
Oh, that's why your draft has been so bad. That makes sense. Okay.
Well, that hurts my feelings because I was drafted. All right. Well, now that I'm absolutely on the clock here, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to find the guy that I want, then I'm going to tell you to hit the button to unpause it, and then I'm going to select them.
All right.
That way, it's a legitimate selection. Oh, I fucking hate this whole draft. Everything about this is just absolute dog shit. All right, go ahead. I'm ready.
Good. Go.
Whoa.
Oh, nice. That's who I was going to go with. I like that.
Goddamn right it was.
I want to circle back to this third round of running backs. You took Izzy Abanikanda. I took, is it a Abanikanda? For some reason, I have so much.
Yeah. No, it's
Chase Brown. Then we have Dwayne McBride. I'm not even sure. Tyjae Evans, Deuce Vaughn, Kenny McIntosh, Evan Hull. We have this whole group of guys, again, black box prospects that like either didn't perform at the combine or were worried about their draft capital. Is there anyone in that group that you identify, like you're like talent wise, it's there? If he gets the draft capital, he goes to a good landing spot or whatever, I'm going to be pulling the trigger far higher than wherever he is right now. Is there anyone that like jumped off the board that you really, really like in that group?
Yeah, amongst that group for me, Tyjae Spears is definitely like the guy that I'm the most a fan of when we look at just the.
Well, he went 2-2. I'm talking about like the third round.
Oh, third. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Like where you and me both got our mid-round guys.
Brown is one of those guys. Like the fact that he's 23, I don't really love it, but the athleticism's ridiculous. We saw a 60.4% rushing workload last year, 4.14 yards created after contact. The thing was, he had a super heavy deployment of outside rush attempts. I think he was in the upper 60% range with that. Wasn't dominant as an inside runner, but what would you expect from a guy that's of that size? That's kind of what the issue here is too with some of these guys. 8.2% target share I like, but again, I think the rumor out there is kind of that people feel like his pass pro is a little weak, and plus, that's generally what I feel like about him, but I think that's the kind of guy that I'm looking at. Deuce Vaughn, way too small. McIntosh, though, how much of McIntosh's game film have you watched? Have you seen any?
I've watched about 5 all 22 game films of like almost every prospect. I've watched a good amount.
He's got some of the sickest catches for a running back.
McIntosh was going to be like my guy for this year. And when he came in at the combine really small and really slow, I was 100% ready for what's his name, Todd Monken, who's coming over from Georgia. He's now the OC in Baltimore. I thought he was for sure going to take Kenny McIntosh to pair up with J.K. Dobbins, and I was like, that was going to be problematic for Dobbins. McIntosh, I had so much fun watching him play. I thought, his passing game, receiving wise, he's so fucking talented. Running, he's not going to be an early down thumper, especially not at his size now. I thought he was slippery enough that he could have been fine if they gave him carries, but everything about like his combine absolutely gave me the ick, and I feel like he's going to fall pretty heavy in drafts.
Yeah, that's the hard part, right? So we get this realization that, it's the opposite of confirmation bias, because we want to confirm the fact that he's as athletic as we think that he appears to be on screen. Like, honestly, I feel like sometimes if you were to ask analysts to project how fast the guy is in his 40-yard dash time based on what we saw on film, I think 9 out of 10 guys, what the fuck was that sound? I think 9 out of 10 guys would probably get it wrong. But this was a guy that, even when you look at PFF, man, I think they graded him fairly reasonably. Played at Georgia, so it's not like the competition was easy for him. But early rush attempts, not high. Late rush attempts, a lot better. But yards created after contact were good. Like you said, good receiver. I think he checks a lot of boxes. Just that athleticism wasn't obviously not what people expected. So, he's a guy that's going to end up a little later, but he's going to be a guy that I think you're going to happily add later in drafts, which I think takes the pressure off, right? Because had his athleticism been reasonable, let's say he ran like a 4.58, you draft him in the second round or whatever it ends up being, and then he totally fails, you're going to hate yourself for it. But the reality is he wasn't that fast, and we can snag him now in probably the third round of rookie drafts, depending on where he's drafted. And you can still bank on the fact that if he gets a shot, he does bring something to the table that a lot of running backs don't. But again, at 204 pounds, like, what do you do?
Yeah, dude, he's just another one of those guys in this class. Comes in, Zach Evans, 202 pounds. It's like we wanted to be excited about them, and they gave us no choice but to go absolutely limp on them. So we have the final draft board here, full 1QB. I took Sam Laporta. Why don't you talk about Hendon Hooker a little bit? I feel like in a 1-quarterback league, he's a dude who, he was ripping off, I think almost every year in college, he had around 500 to 650 rushing yards. So he's one of those dudes where in a 1-quarterback league, you want to take a chance on him because he has that rushing upside. In the 4th round, like we're talking about, if this guy gets top 40, top 50 draft capital in the real NFL draft, he's going to be a top 15 pick in rookie drafts. Like people are not going to make that same mistake they made with Jalen Hurts and, those types of quarterbacks where they let him fall to 212 to 3.2 and know that the upside is just like laying out there for him. So Hendon Hooker is another one that obviously he's got a little bit more of an uphill battle to him, and he's not as athletic as a dude like Jalen Hurts. But down at the 4-3 and 1 quarterback league, I'm in there. And again, when you're looking at so many prospects that are just question marks, it's like, why not?
Yeah, I think the concern for people is probably the age factor. Number one, he's certainly older than the rest of the quarterbacks in this class. He's 25 years old. He's 25 years old. That's like unheard of, coming into the NFL. But, with that being said, against the competition he was facing, this is a guy that, go to PFF. We look at turnover worthy play rate or throw rate. That was one thing where he was the absolute lowest amongst all draft eligible players in 2023. He was a guy that was, top 2 in yards per pass attempt. This is a guy that only threw 2 interceptions, 27 touchdowns, propped up a couple of notable receivers over the past couple of years, guys that have been revered amongst this class. So he's a guy that I really like because I think that we've seen the success of Jalen Hurts out of the second round. We've seen teams last year to me was really defining, right? We had one quarterback go in the first round, then we had a bunch of quarterbacks go to the third round. I think this year, if Hendon Hooker's a guy that goes in the second round with the NFL sort of showing how they truly feel about the quarterback position, that to me is a real investment. Now, Kyle Trask was a second round guy. He may get pushed out, but I think Hendon Hooker brings a lot to the table. But we've yet to really see, short of a Brandon Whedon situation, a guy show up at this age, because you can go back, and I know the classic narrative, well, he's 25 and he's throwing against children. Well, that's probably true, but these guys have been playing their position for a long time. He's in a tough conference. So sure, we can attribute some of that to his age, but he's a guy that I'm excited about. I know his name comes up a lot with the Seattle Seahawks, and I know he's been in the day 2 conversation. So with that being said, in 1QB with the potential to be a starter, why wouldn't you take him there?
Yeah, I mean, that's like the perfect landing spot for I feel like that's kind of been a theme of draft talk leading up. It's like, does Seattle or Detroit take Anthony Richardson in round 1? If they don't, do they look for Hendon Hooker in round 2? And I think both of them, it's almost like too perfect on paper that there's no chance that it fucking happens. But if it does, it's time to throw a party around, and we'll be all in on Hooker here. After Hooker, we had Tyler Scott, 4.4, who I'm a really, really big fan of. But again, another undersized wide receiver that we're hoping hits some sort of ceiling that's not the prerequisite for guys that are, his size. Sam Laporta, I took at 4.5. So I took 2 tight ends, but I'm not really building a team here. I'm just kind of drafting best player available. At this point, I think Laporta is one of the most underrated tight ends in this class. Jonathan Mingo, Zach Kuntz, Mohamed Ibrahim. I like Mohamed Ibrahim. He was a fun watch, but he's really fucking old. I think he played for 5 years. I think he's like actually 24 or 25 also. Oldest running back in this class. Dealt with a lot of injuries. Michael Wilson, Parker Washington, Eric Gray, Stenson Bennett. So anything in that 4th round there that sticks out to you?
Who were we talking about earlier? There was a name you brought up. Tyler Scott. I mean, that was right. Was he in that round?
Yeah.
Is he down there? Okay. Yeah, that was one of those guys. I mean, undersized at one. You know what's funny? 185 is not that undersized in this class, by the way. I mean, it's
you know what? Actually, I didn't realize he's not necessarily like too undersized. He's
undersized.
Skinny on tape. He's small on tape.
He's undersized. No, you're right. But like amongst this class, when we have to pick through just the shit that we don't want to pick through, this guy is actually like a beacon of hope. 5'11", 185, ran a 4.4 40-yard dash, which was 95th percentile. Dominator rating 85th percentile. College target share 73rd. College yards per reception 76. Also a guy that was dominant versus man coverage of 3.47 yards per route run. Round 2 draft capital is what I keep seeing. So, I'm
very much in on him. He also did not play any wide receiver until he got to Cincinnati. Fun fact for you. I started doing like real deep. I was like, I really like this kid. I want to make sure I'm not missing anything here. Yeah. And it was like the 2020 year, he didn't play much. He wasn't a wide receiver until he got into college. And then as soon as he was, it was like, this kid fucking can ball.
You do it. Yeah. It's, you look at a profile like that. This is kind of where my curiosity is. We looked at last year with the quarterbacks. We had all these guys. Everybody believed Malik Willis was, I didn't, I don't know if you did, but everybody believed Malik Willis was going to be like a first round guy and bought in all the hype. And then we saw the way that the league valued these ancillary quarterbacks. My question is, when the league is faced with a ton of slim guys at 170, 175, what are they going to do when a guy with this level of athleticism at this size is on the board? Like, I really do think that he's actually going to be vaulted above some of the players that we think may go ahead of him that are sitting in that 175 range, because the league's just going to go, look, the archetype doesn't work. It's too difficult to get these guys to fire. There are numerous examples across the NFL, of course, but historically, I would deem most of those guys outliers. Like a 175-pound receiver in the NFL succeeding is an outlier in many rights, especially if he's fantasy relevant.
Yeah, that's like always been my problem with the undersized players. It's not necessarily all of them are talented enough to be problematic on the field for opposing teams. It's always like the coach cannot figure out how to use them correctly, cannot put them in positions to succeed. So it's like, at the end of the day, every player is pretty much a coin flip to tell you whether or not they're even like a good enough player to be, dominating at the NFL level. And then it's like another coin flip of whether or not their coach is going to use him correctly. And that's where it's like you start having this compound effect where it has nothing to do with your evaluating skills. It has nothing to do with you being able to tell whether or not this guy's good at football. It's more so just like there's so much working against this guy. So why not just like cut out half the risk and take a guy that doesn't have that monumental risk attached to him?
Yeah. No, you're totally right. I mean, it's a guy like Tyler Lockett. You think about when Seattle drafted him. I don't think anybody believed they moved up in the 3rd round to get him. I don't think anybody believed that he was going to be as productive as he is. But this is also a guy, you go back and watch the clips. It's funny because he'll just like go to the ground after a catch, because I think even he realizes like he's had injuries, right? He's had some significant ones in his career. And it's like, I think even he realizes like the value of just getting what you get and going down versus fighting through contact when you're age 30 and a half or when he was 28 doing it. Like, it makes sense. These young guys that are hungry, that want that yak, that yards after the catch. A guy like Marvin Mims, right? For example, a guy that's 5'11", 183, absolute beast. I think he had the highest yards after the catch per reception on deep targets at 13.4, top 9 overall when we look at basic yards after the catch per reception. Like, the guy is crazy after the catch, but it's like, how long can you do that before that does enough to you where you're like, fuck it, I have to be, put more thought into this, get out of bounds, get my separation, get the catch, like get what I need, get a little extra. So I wonder how the league is going to value these guys. And that to me is something I'm going to take note of. That'll go into my data. What do they do when faced with all these 175-pound players? How many guys go in the 3rd round? Like how many go in the 2nd? So
I wonder if there's a little bit, I wonder if there's a little bit of like the way that dynasty players are, they do, where we have to push these players up just because of lack of options. I feel like we'll probably see a little bit of that in the NFL, and they'll talk themselves into saying like, hey, this guy did it or this guy did it. We can figure it out. But it certainly will be interesting to see how this NFL draft plays out. I just wish there were more good football players in it.
I mean, admittedly, there will be a guy or two in here that's going to surprise us. Like this had, Deontay Johnson, when Pittsburgh took him, we're like, there's no fucking way. Like, who is this guy? And then he ends up being a fantasy, relevant, very relevant player for a multitude of years. Hard to say who he is now with Kenny Pickett. But yeah, I think that there's a lot of guys in this class that make me nervous, and I'm sure probably make you nervous. And it's difficult for dynasty gamers because if we roll the clock back a year, everybody was like, trade the picks for 2023. And this is a perfect example of how that can sort of backfire, because it's not just that it's loaded with a bunch of booby traps, but it's the fact that now people are sort of they're woke to this, right? And so they don't want to trade for those picks. And so you've lost value on your stuff and just kind of got to ride it out, I guess.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. I'm thinking about moving most of the more days that pass by, the more I've saw a lot of leagues where I have like 3 or 4 third round picks. And I'm like, yeah, it's fun to take shots on those picks, but I'd rather package them up and I'd rather, take 2 third rounders and get a late second next year and figure it out then with earlier draft capital and hope that turns into something better than try to get cute on the clock and be like, oh, I like this guy, but objectively he's not a great prospect. I'm probably going to try to move most of the picks I have. If I can't jump up into, the top 6 or 7 picks this year, I don't fucking want anyone. I don't want anyone that's not a top 7 player in this draft class. You heard it here. Never been wrong. Listen, we've been wrong in the past, but we guarantee 100% correctness going forward.
I love it, man. It's all you can do is just guarantee to be correct and just hope that you're never wrong.
Like I said, we have a lot of lies, a lot of rumors in here. We'll never stop doing.
It's what I do all the time, man. No, it's well, that was the fastest fucking draft I've ever been a part of.
What do you mean?
That thing
60 seconds per pick. We even paused it. You know how many times I paused it on you?
On me?
That could have been way quicker if I didn't pause it on you. You take 82 minutes to make a pick, and you're like, I don't even know I was on the clock.
Well, I mean, to be fair, I had no idea that last time. But yeah, it was a quick draft, but
it was. No, I mean, it's only 4 rounds.
Yeah, no, it's good. I think the rookie stuff, and I was gonna say one thing I saw Ray G do the other day. I was gonna ask you. I was like, man, we should try this sometime. They basically took an industry mock, and then they treated it as if that's the actual places these players landed. So they had like Zay Flowers go to this team, and then they drafted that way.
Yeah, I've done that many times. I've done that a few times.
That's
I've done that with a guest before. It gets a little bit tricky because what I'll typically do is I'll like take the website that it's posted on, and then I'll like manually transfer it over to Excel and strip out all the defensive players, send it over to the person. It's just it's kind of like a lot of work to expect someone to show up for your show to like really have diagnosed it and then like re-rank every player based on the landing spot. I know you would have done that for me. I know you would have started preparing like 3 or 4 days ago had I sent it, but I wanted you to relax. I wanted you to just show up looking like me and, you know, have a good show.
Well, I'm glad you showed up looking like me, but I never relax. So that's just one thing I want to make sure is clear.
All right. Well, if you're not relaxing, what are you working on? What do you got working in the wings?
Yeah. So, as you know, we're working on dynastyrankings.com. We've been working on a really dope algorithm right now. Website's still being built out. So we're doing that. Dude, I just really and truly, I just want to make cool fucking tools, man. I want to do something that's really fun. I want to try to do something that's really unique. And, you know, you and I have had conversations offline before about stuff, and I'm just trying to be innovative and do something that's maybe a little outside the box. So that keeps me busy. I keep trying to post on YouTube, but dude, every day I get a post that says BDGE Media has posted a video. And I'm like, man, this fucking guy is like on it. It's not easy. Like people that don't do the YouTube thing, like don't know. It's not just hard to produce content. Like
the only thing I do every day.
Thinking of content. No, man. Well, it's good. I got to get in that mindset. So doing the YouTube thing, doing the website thing, and then just going and doing the data, reading stuff about this draft class.
So tell us a little bit more about Dynasty Rankings. So right now, if you go to dynastyrankings.com, you could send your email through and it says be the first to get access to it. So all you got to do is drop your email. They'll send you an email when the site is live. And when it's live, it is a premium product in which they pay for these rankings that you've been putting together. I know the details of it because we've talked behind the scenes at quite length about this. But why don't you tell them a little bit more about like what they're getting and why they should go to the site and sign up?
For sure, man. So, you know, over at the site, one thing, I work with a guy named Alexander McKenzie, a guy that you've met. He's a data engineer and loves fantasy football. And we've been working for probably the last 4+ months on a machine learning algorithm that really takes into account what I believe and what has historically been proven to be the most highly correlated factors to fantasy points per game, to hit rates, to all that stuff. So we're really trying to build a tool that'll give you guys a truly accurate representation of players and their outcome. And it's going to be a machine learning tool. So it's actually predicting, it's looking ahead. So it's really cool on that end of things. Of course, a lot of this technology is going to be tied into ADP data. The trade calculator is going to be powered by it. Plus, we have a ton of proprietary metrics. This is a thing, though, that's going to be rolled out in phases. Admittedly, we're two guys. It's me. It's Alexander. I do a lot of research and a lot of items like that. Alexander's the fucking brains. Alexander's the Einstein, right?
I know the feeling. Most of the times when I start projects and push them forward, I'm always like the dumb guy in the equation. I'm like, why are we not fucking done with this? Where is this? Why? You know, I have the vision. I'm like, get this done. Get this 5-year project done in the next 5 days.
Right, dude, you're Columbus staring through a telescope. Like you can see the shit, but I'm not the one steering the fucking ship. So no, I'm heavily involved with it. And so more and more information will come out. But basically what we want to do is create sort of an all-in-one opportunity where people can come in, get dynasty rankings with a lot of really cool filters that will help you guys depending on where your team is at in your journey of dynasty. A lot of us play dynasty and we either have a dominant team or we have a team that's kind of in the pits or in between. And it's hard to figure out sort of where to navigate from there. So this website's going to be interactive enough to help you sort of navigate around that and make some good decisions. And on top of that, we want to give people the ability to do a lot of in-depth research. So we're going to create a lot of metrics, offer a lot of metrics that you may be able to find some places, but ones that really matter, put them into a tool suite. So it's kind of going to be an all-in-one place, right? Like do everything in one spot, get your answers. And of course, this kind of stuff will be linked to Discord where you can chat with us and get some one-on-one stuff like that. So that's it in a nutshell, man.
Very cool. Well, let's get that fucking email list bumped up for Mr. Nate over there. dynastyrankings.com. Make sure you go sign up. They're going to be fucking dope when it drops. We will link that down below for you if you're illiterate and can't understand dynastyrankings.com. Nathaniel, we will leave you here.
Yes, sir.
You look like you're becoming an outraged Jew, and I don't want you to take it out on your family right now.
Say that?
Isn't that your Twitter name?
It is my Twitter name. It's right. Yeah, I always like to make people feel super awkward anytime they say it. Like
it doesn't work on me, but now it's the second time you said it. So now I'm like, wait, maybe like that's part of the bit where he changed his name and now he can bury people for saying it. I was like,
no, only my people can say that, bro. No, you're in the epicenter of my people. You're fine. You're fine.
Also, wait, fun fact, my mom, fully Jewish, my dad, fully Catholic. I never got like, I never had a bar mitzvah or whatever. I got, this is a true fucking story.
Oh,
I got baptized, communion, and made confirmation all on the same day in 8th grade because I wanted to play on the church basketball team with my friends. And I did it all in one day, and I dropped 18 points that night.
Did it in the eyes of the Lord.
I did it in the eyes of the Lord. All the Jews were fucking pissed. They were out.
Yeah, they were mad. But they're like, we lost another one. Yeah. So wait a minute.
We lost a top pick. We lost. We lost breakout age. Breakout Jew age.
There was a potential second round NBA Jew out there, and we lost him. Really need that. So wait a minute. So are you telling me you're half Jewish?
I'm not, because I went through the entire Catholic. I'm not religious whatsoever.
I know, but Judaism is like a blood. So like when I go to like 23andMe, and
do I have Jew in my blood? Yeah, if I spit up right now, if I hacked something, there's Jew in there.
L'chaim. Well, welcome. I'm glad.
Look at the fucking.
No, I know. Look, I mean, wait. Go turn your head sideways. Oh, definitely a Jew. Yeah, no, we can tell. It's you got a lot of facial features. I got blue eyes. My mom was part German, so I'm only half technically, but don't tell anybody. You know, I don't want to get.
I won't tell anybody.
Can't say
won't
that,
tell 93,000 people.
Yeah, don't tell them. Congrats on that, big flex. No, man. So it's good to know. I didn't know that about you. That was a fun fact. 18 points, by the way. How many of that came from the outside? How many were threes?
Dude, I was a driver. I was like dominant getting into the paint.
Yeah. No, you can tell like work ethic, right? Like take your lunch pail to work. Like you're just a blue collar.
I was catching bodies in the fucking paint, sir. Send me to the line. I actually think I went 18 for 18 from the free throw line. I think that's how I got my bucket.
So, dude, what is that? That's like 7 misses under the belt. Well, you might have got hacked. I don't know. Like,
what do you mean misses? That's just
I got to fouled. Go to the line. You got it.
It doesn't count as a miss if you get fouled on the shot, sir.
So you never were able to actually say and one once during that game.
All right. Now I'm pissed.
I'm pissed. Yeah. I mean, you're just like totally out of the fact that nothing. It's unfortunate to see, but because I'm a great City League basketball player, believe it or not. Legend around this area, actually.
What city? What, a fake city? Fucking city of Atlantis?
I don't have to tell you.
That's what I thought. This show is ending here. Okay. I'm sweating through. Are you sweating through your shirt?
I got a little bit. Look at that. Wow, we do.
Dad, we know who worked harder. We know who would drop 18 tonight. You know who would drop 18 tonight.
Your show's better. It's much darker. It's bleeding through. It's Kelly Green.
All right. We are out of here. Please go follow Nate. Please subscribe to his channel. Please go over to dynastyrankings.com. Nate, thank you for hanging out with us on this Monday morning.
Anytime, brother.